Well, clearly there's a lot of things to point at, but the irony though is that you guys make that push in the third quarter, and that's been the quarter that's been the bugaboo.
Well, I mean, we talked at halftime about the spirit of our team. You know, they were playing with, and I had a few personal things to say, but personal to the team about they were playing with their heart and just playing harder than us. And it was like every time we win a game in this series, the next game we come into it and we just didn't have the same juice. And it was like enough's enough. And we saw in the third quarter a little bit, but in the fourth, you know, to hold that team to 24 points in the fourth when we needed stops, it was evident that it was going to be a game of wills, and we just had a little bit more in the fourth. But then, you know, you look at DA going 10 for 12, and then I think Chris did something historical tonight in a closeout game. You know, we needed it to win a game like this in front of an unreal crowd. You know, and it's hard when you have to compete against someone you love. And so there was tons of emotions with this game. I'm glad we won, but I know what it feels like to be on the other side. And I just felt for Willie, but I was unbelievably elated for our team. So there's just this weird back and forth with my feelings and my heart right now, but I'm just grateful to get this win. It was a really cool win for us.
And we saw that at the end, you and Willie embracing, and he embraced Chris, Devin. He had the tears flowing. Couldn't tell whether you did or not during that hug, but is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's just those guys. I mean, we're all family. You know what I mean? And I just read in Coach K's book, you know, he was talking about competing against, you know, people that he loved, and then that's, you shouldn't have to do that, but it's a part of our game, you know. And I know what Willie brought to the table for our program, and you saw it this year with this program. And I had a lot of conversations with him earlier in the season when things weren't going well. And Willie Green is one of the more steady people that I've ever been around. And he was consistent and stable and strong through it all. And it's one of the reasons why they continue to get better. And I just know that feeling. I know what it's like. And so to see him in that, you know, in that place, that's a tough spot for all of us, you know, because at the end of the day, we're all friends, we're all brothers. And after we're done coaching, you know, we're going to be that way.
Last thing I had was just your usage of Booker. Obviously, he got to start. Then he didn't start the second half. I'm just curious what was working for, or what
I thought we were going to have a fist fight over there. The look he gave me. We had already talked about it, but we had to stick to the plan because it was going to be easier to finish with him and keep his minutes relatively lower. Now, I played him about 8 more minutes than I wanted to. We wanted to keep him at about 24. But I was just watching him, and he didn't look like he was dragging it or laboring at all. And there wasn't many transition opportunities where he was the guy flying, where you may have to push that thing too far. And he told me, he said, "Coach, I feel fine and strong. I have no issues." So I just left him out there.
You've seen Chris play so many games. What was tonight? What is it like?
Oh, gosh. It's hard to say. I can't even, he's done it so many times. It's probably number one because it just happened, you know, and I know how special New Orleans is to him. You know, he cares deeply about the city, about the people here, the fans, the children. So for him to come back here and play that way, I know it was, you know, really cool for him, but it's probably number one because it just happened. But I've seen him do it so many times.
In terms of, you know, you've talked about when Book was out, how everybody steps up, now having him back. You know, it wasn't his, you know, highest scoring game or whatever, but how did you see the way that it kind of reshifted everything for everybody?
You know, obviously he competes his tail off on defense, which he doesn't get enough credit for, but the shots that he hit in the second half, you know, the pull-up mid-range shot, not many people can get to that shot, let alone make the shot. But the three in front of our bench, like that was textbook book. I mean, there was so much attention on Chris, and somebody lost him, and he just did what Book does. So I thought the offense was a bit off in the first half. I thought in the second half we played in environments a lot better, but it was good to have another anchor out there. When Chris was going, we could also give it to Book and let him, you know, do what he does really well.
We've talked a lot about Mikal Bridges, but his defense on
Yeah.
CJ the whole series and that steal that he had near the end. Just
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of those rare, high energy, highly effective defenders that can also be productive on offense at a high level. We thought we were going to take his head off when he went under on Ingram in the corner, and Ingram got the three. He didn't want to look at the bench because he knew that was the wrong read. But then he comes right back and gets a steal and converts on that. That's Mikal. I mean, if you go back to the bubble against the Clippers, we ended up with the ball because he got a big time deflection that you couldn't choreograph it. He just got his hand on the ball. We got it back. Book hits a game-winning shot. I mean, those are the kinds of plays that he just has the instincts to make.
Monty, it's rare for you to emote to a play, but when Mikal got that steal, you were sprinting with him up the sideline
Yeah.
almost.
I wouldn't call it a sprint. I
light
don't have
jog.
enough cartilage in my knee to sprint, but I was just,
Is
you
that
could
just
see
go back
it.
to the fight? That
yeah. I mean, in a crowd, in an environment like this, all we have is us. And I was just out there with him. You know, I could see what he was doing. He got the ball, and then I made an attempt at a jaunt, but a bad attempt. But I was just so happy that he made that play. And it's just one of those deals where you get caught up in the moment, and, I'm okay with that. I think it's cool when the players see me that way. They tell me that it gets them going. So I hope I can do it more.
just about all series long, it's been difficult to sustain offense for more than a
Yeah.
couple of minutes. And you guys put together that huge run in the third quarter of all places, 30+ points in both quarters in the second half.
Yeah.
What'd you see offensively that started to piece together?
It wasn't necessarily a play call, even though, like Brett Brown taught me when I went to Philly, the playoffs are more about environments and concepts because everybody knows your stuff. It's how well you can play in those two variables. And then, I've added talent and decisions, and I thought we made really good decisions. The biggest key on the other side, I think Nance had 6 offensive rebounds in the first half. I don't think he had one in the second. And that allowed for us to get the ball and get out and play and flow. But when you have two guys like Chris and Book who can get to their spots and knock down shots, and then DA goes 10 for 12, that was a huge bonus for us. Not necessarily a bonus, but when you have 3 guys that can score that way, it really helps your team.
Is there something you think there could be to, in the first round series, getting a 6-game fight like this as opposed to a sweep that could help you guys in the postseason?
I mean, all playoff series are hard. You know what I'm saying? Even if you sweep a team, like that last game is going to be a battle. So, yeah, it certainly helps us. I mean, this is not an 8th seed. No way. I mean, if you look at their record after the trade and the progression of Willie's program, you wouldn't grade that as an 8th seed. And their young guys don't look like young guys. I mean, they were knocking down shots, making plays at the basket. And Ingram is, he's a superstar. So this was a big time battle. I mean, you would expect a series like this later on in the playoffs, but I think there's so much parity in the league now. You can't walk into a first round series without keeping your left up. You better keep your left up and duck, because teams are throwing punches right out the gate.
Monty, do you have any idea during the game that Chris hasn't missed a shot?
I have no clue, but that's my normal state, so it's not saying much. I found out in the locker room.
Did you have any reaction to that? Does it matter? Does it make it any more
Yeah, it
impressive to
matters.
you?
Yeah, I mean, I can sit here and do the coach thing and be like, oh, we won. But yeah, when you win and he does that in a closeout game, like, yeah, that's special. we have a phrase, we celebrate everything. And when a player like Chris, who's given so much to the game and invested so much to be in positions like that, has a night like this, you want to make sure you recognize it. And so we talked about DA going 10 for 12, but then we had to bring up the fact that Chris did something that I think nobody else has done in NBA history. Like, yeah, you have to recognize that.
Might seem, just one more. Might seem obvious that rest is going to be beneficial no matter what, but especially with Book's situation to close them out and not go to Game 7. Just what kind of value is that?
Yeah, I mean, Chris talked about it, the importance of that, but I think you have to not just rest, but you also have to take advantage of the rest. What does that look like? We're not going to take 3 or 4 days off. I don't even know the schedule. We're going to be able to go back to Phoenix and get the treatment that we need. And we'll be in the gym more than you think, just because we want to, keep our blade sharp, if you will, so that we can be ready for the next round.
Coach, the next round starts on a Monday, I believe.
There you go.
So you got a couple days there. No, I was going to follow up with Chris. Obviously, he had the huge third, and then he started picking when to go do things. How does one do that? I mean, where it looked like maybe he should stay on this roll, but then he figures, okay, other guys need the ball, I'm gonna get 8 in the lob. How does one manage the game like that?
You're asking me.
You're his coach, so that's why.
I'm his coach. That's it. I have no idea. I just know that great players have a knack for that. They know when to and when not to. You know what I mean? The game slows down for them slower than it does for everybody else. And there's not many situations Chris Paul has been in that are going to startle him at all. And there's a trust factor between he and I when it comes to play calls down the stretch in certain environments. And he'll relay something to me and I'll be like, go with it. And he just does his thing. The one thing I don't want to do is ever get in his way. That's my job, is to try to put him in a position where he can be his best and then space the court around him that allows for him and Book and our guys to be the best version of themselves. But I have no idea what it is about him that allows for him to play that way. I'm grateful for it.
Monty, just one last little segment of the game I wanted to ask about. There was Cam getting that putback and then the steal and then the 3-on-3 straight plays. He's been able to bounce in and out of this role all year and
Yeah.
still make an impact. Can you just speak to the job?
I mean, it's, we were talking about it in the pregame with TNT. Like we knew that he was due for a game like this where he would, put his fingerprints on the game in a major way. And I thought the 50-50 ball that he got for the layup was, no one expected that play to happen. And then the transition 3 was huge. So, and then I thought his defense was solid. Ingram's a tough guard for everybody, and they run a lot of stuff that we run. So you have to, you better have a full tank when you're playing against that kind of offense. And so I thought on both sides of the ball, he was pretty efficient tonight. Thank you. Thank you.